Hello and welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Buy Round Interview Show. Today we're joined by a person that obviously I've played against, but when you go back and look at what you have achieved in life is pretty incredible. Rugby league player, rugby union player, it's just player, like Premiership winner, Lions player, now in the coaching realm. Benny Teo, thank you so much for joining us here on the Buy Round.
Thanks for having me. It's I've been working with you for a fair few years now on Triple M and with Charlie, so it's only a matter of time before I come on here, and it's good to be on.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to diving into things. I was going to save this till the end.
Yeah.
But mate, I want to just say what a rugby league player you were. Like coming up against that South Sydney team around the 2014. Obviously, you had Sam, the twins, Renault, GI, Johnny Sutton. Yeah. But mate, you were one hell of a player. Like coming up against you, I know those guys got a lot of the attention, but you were a phenomenal player in that South team. I just wanted to put that out there, mate.
Thanks,
you were
mate.
incredible.
I appreciate that.
Absolutely incredible. Your playing career finished, and we were just talking before. Madge said you were the last person he'd expect to see.
Yeah.
In the coach's box with him.
Yeah.
What is it that attracted you to the profession of coaching?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of my teammates and ex-coaches could probably verify that I was probably the least likely player to become a coach. I think when Madge came to the Broncos, he sort of had a laugh. He looked at me and he said, how the hell are you here? I think you're the last player that I would expect to get into coaching. And right up until my retirement, it wasn't something that I thought about. I never planned and thought, one day I could be a coach. But I suppose, as you said earlier, with my experiences around the globe and around different environments, codes and coaches, it just all started to fall into place in my mind about what I thought made a good football environment. I was debuted by Tim Sheens. I thought the way he brought me into the game at NRL level was great. I thought the fundamentals of what he believed in was important. I went right through with, guys like, Anthony Griffin and Michael Maguire, and then went to rugby, Warren Gatlin, Eddie Jones, and, and then the last 3 years to be mentored by Wayne Bennett, I just started to really see what I wanted to do. And, I think the best thing you can be for a team or players is a good coach and help them improve, and I think that's the buzz of it. So it's pretty interesting how I'm in it.
From all those people that you mentioned there, is there a trait that is common amongst all of those individuals that is the like a fundamental to coaching, or are they all? I know they'd all be different in their own way, but is there one attribute that rings true for all of those people? They're all very different temperaments and different styles. I think at the end of the day, you are a teacher. You're a teacher. If you think back to some of the best coaches you had when you were young, a lot of them were school teachers. A lot of them worked their way into the professional game, but you're there to teach. Bring a team together and get wins. That's really the gist of it. And whichever style you do it in, that they were all different. But yeah, you're a teacher of men. So within those coaches as well, is there one that I know you said that Maguire said you'd be the last person, but is there one that you looked at and thought, that's what I want to do, that's who I want to emulate and be like?
Wayne. Yeah. I mean, I think I've just been around so many coaches and so many environments, and I think, when I retired, I got hold of Wayne. I got his number and I rang him and I said, Wayne, I'm thinking about coaching, but I'd like to talk to you about my path and what you think. And he said, meet me tomorrow, 12 o'clock, down on the Gold Coast. So I drove down to meet him, and he's opened up all the doors for me. So 3 years with him, sitting back, watching, I just knew and understood why he's been successful. You'd know him pretty well. If I could be like someone, it would be like him. If I could coach like him and be a mentor, that's what I'd do.
And is that the man management
style that he brings.
Yeah.
'Cause that's what I found stood out about him. It wasn't X's and O's. It wasn't this genius game plan.
No.
It was his people skills.
Yeah. Managing men, but managing an environment and a team, and everyone has fun, don't they? I mean, I used to look forward. I was on his coaching staff for 2 years. I couldn't wait for meetings on Monday. I couldn't wait for it. What was he going to say? What joke did he have? Who is he going to get into? And I think this is what I would say about Wayne, and what I want to be. Wayne could get you at 18. I reckon he could get you at 18 years old, debut you, and you could still be playing for him at 36 and loving it. You would still love every day. I think that you couldn't say that about a lot of coaches.
Yeah. It's phenomenal, really. I had a number of camps with him for England, and there's things that he said that have stayed with me.
Yeah.
Like all this time, about living above the line.
Yeah.
Like, don't be late. And why you shouldn't be late, because sometimes you get told like a rule or a way to live by, but you kind of like, well, what does it matter? But he tells you, he tells us why. Don't be late because you're saying your time's more important than other people's time. It's like, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he kept things so simple with the best players of England. We don't need that much coaching.
Yeah.
We just need, like you say, an environment that helps us excel. I often look at leadership almost like being a gardener, where you set the environment to help people grow or help the flowers or the plants grow. And that's exactly what Wayne has done. For a rugby league football club, how do you go about shaping those environments? Like what things can you actually implement that helps an individual and a team grow and blossom?
I think what I learned from him was every environment's a little bit different, aren't they? I think he understands what certain people need and at what time. But I think the biggest thing I would probably learn from what he's done is everyone's got to train hard. Everyone has to be fit. Like, you got to be rock hard fit. I think that's a really important thing from the get-go. If you want to be in games, you've got to be fit. And then it's going about doing your work, doing what needs to be done, and then get on with life. Like, as in not just being there for hours and hours and hours just for the sake of it. I think that's one thing I learned from him. And I think a big one too is just what you said is not having too many rules, because they'll be broken. And once they're broken, then you're going to have to do something about it.
And he put so much trust in you as well. Yeah. Just basically, if you're going for a drink, don't get arrested.
Yeah, that's it. Like, what is his rules? Don't be late and don't go to
jail. And if someone goes to jail, he pointed at us, the senior players. I'll be pissed off at you guys for not looking after him. Yeah. We're like, hell.
Yeah.
All right. And I've been in previous camps. It's like the rules and regulations around alcohol and all this. It's night out. It's like, we're going to be in the hotel and you just go, hell. Whether or not we wear flip flops or thongs on the plane, you're like, are we really going through this?
Yeah, it's just
it's simple. Don't get arrested.
Yeah. 100%.
Okay. Brilliant. We won't.
Yeah.
We won't let you down.
Yeah.
There's different aspects of coaching. One of the things I'm very curious about is the use of technology.
Yeah.
And how that's implemented when we were first coming through. I'm sure you would have experienced GPS coming in and it's like, why am I wearing this little battery pack, heart rate monitors? And we've seen the sort of evolution of coaching. Where do you think it gets to? And is it something that you're using now on a day-to-day basis? Yeah,
I mean, it has changed a lot. If you think about things like GPS, they really dictate what you do during the week now. And sports scientists, they're very powerful people in football clubs now. They tell you when you can train, how long you can train. And so there's always that real battle between, how much can we do, like how much can we push and what are the numbers saying from a GPS point of view. And then if you go into things like, AI now, that's starting to come into our games in terms of
giving you live stats, like a whole lot of live stats just thrown at you into the coach's box and then put into graphs, whether that be momentum graphs. There's a lot of that coming in now. So
what's a momentum graph?
So that could be something like, AI feeds in, meters gained, tackle breaks, line breaks, missed tackles, ineffective tackles, and it just grabs all that information and spits it into one graph where you can pretty much see who's winning the momentum of the game. That type of stuff is coming in now. And, analysts are very important. But, look, I think at times we can probably overdo it. Me and you both know that the game's pretty simple. A more aggressive team that hit hard and that are fit and run their plays well are always going to get on top and win. And then, video analysis has come a long way too, from drones and how you can get that information in training and cut it up. So, I mean, it's getting full on. It's probably giving a lot more people jobs in footy than there needs to be.
I guess it can be a bit information overload. How as a coach do you balance that? Because you've got some amazing forwards at your disposal.
Yeah,
which it be quite the fine balancing act around. Okay, here's all this information about momentum charts and meters per minute.
Yeah,
you say to Payne Hast, mate, I just need you to run hard, mate.
Yeah,
you're doing a great job.
Yeah. Well, and that's about knowing your group too. You get a bit of feedback from the players, and you can probably, when you take a meeting, once you start, minute one, you're going through, you can get to sometimes like 24 minutes in, bang, you can just see they're gone, and each group is different, but I feel like players now are starting to get a smaller attention span. So you need to be punchy with your meetings. You need to really hit them with the information they need early, and then wrap it up. And, take meetings. One thing I learned from Eddie Jones is about taking meetings off-site, taking them in different places just to freshen up, to get the point across. Because, too much information, once you start blabbing on a bit too much, you'll just lose them.
Where do you think it can get to? Like with AI and peak performance?
I think they're pretty close now with GPS and knowing the amount of meters that's pushing too much. Like we know the ceiling of probably how many meters per week you can do. I think everyone's always jostling about this thing they call GD3, GD2. So it's how much you train or how hard you train 2 days out from the game or 3 days out from the game. Each team has a different recipe of what they think works for them. But I do think sometimes it's counterproductive. Like once you start mucking around too much with all this information and not just listening to your players, you can really go off track.
Also, I'm thinking about the mental side of the game and the preparation. Shane Webke was somebody that ran 8 or 10K every Tuesday.
Yeah.
Every Tuesday without fail. I was somebody that always did conditioning extras because that was my way of getting my body ready and mentally knowing I've done the work to get out there. But I've had head of performances say, mate, you got to stop. It's like, no. I've got this.
Yeah.
You stopping me doing this is actually detrimental to my mental ability and confidence building to go into the game. So like, it always fascinates me this how some people get held back, but it affects the mental aspect of the game.
Yeah, and that'll never change. I mean, I was like you. I think every Tuesday I had to do, 2 sets of Malcolms.
Yeah.
Just for me to have in my mind that I'm ready. I've done the work. Even if I was fit, it's just a quick sharpen up. And you have to do that. But, I've been around teams and environments where, the team's training and they're training really, really well. And the sports scientist comes up and says, mate, they've got 300 meters and then we're going to have to pull up. Why? Why? We're going good. What's another 1K going to do?
Yeah.
Or we have to get this many high speed meters. I think sometimes that point can go over the top. And I would say a lot of coaches have probably given those guys too much rein.
Yeah.
And it's cost them their jobs.
Well, there's times where the sports scientists will come out and go, or say this player can't train, the fullback. It's like, well, if he can't train, we can't practice what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And then therefore we'll lose.
Yeah.
Because we need to get reps in to understand work on combinations or that edge is down on confidence. But the edge back row and the centre can't train because they've reached their high speed meet. It's like, well, who cares?
Yeah.
Because we're gonna fail if we don't do it.
Yeah, yeah.
And if somebody gets injured, then that's the price that we pay.
Yeah, yeah. And you always got to play that game. You push them, and you push them as hard. And sometimes people break, and you're going to have to deal with that. And then you're going to have to delve into your squad depth and that. But you've got to trust your squad. I think that's a big one too. Any team that's been pretty successful, you got to trust your squad.
Talk about trusting the squad. You had your own team.
Yeah.
Last year. How valuable was that experience to actually be making the calls?
Yeah. When I said I went down to see Wayne and I said, where do you think I should start? And he told me to come with him to the Dolphins and he'd give me the under-20s team. And that was coaching kids that were, straight out of school, first, second year apprenticeships, training Monday nights, Wednesday nights and Friday nights. And so for me, I've only ever coached, except for this year, I've always had my own team. So I had a Colts team and then I had Queensland Cup for 2 years. So he told me that the only way I'd know whether I want to be a coach is if I had my own team and the pressure was on me. So while doing that, I was his assistant. And for me, I wouldn't be where I'm at now if I hadn't taken my own team because you make a lot of mistakes and you got to, it sounds easy, but being up in the box, making interchanges and making a call, whether I'm going to put this guy or this guy on, it can cost you the game. So I think those were things that were very important for me.
You had to, make mistakes. I think, you know what? It's fascinating to hear you say that because so many people would shy away from even verbalizing the fact that they've made mistakes.
Yeah.
And it's okay because you learn from that.
Yeah.
Right? We all make them.
Well, there's a reason why you're meant to come through the grades in anything you do. Whether that's in the workplace, as a player, you come through jersey flag and reserve grade. It's just like coaching and start from the bottom. So when I retired, I went and coached the under-20s while also coaching a rugby union school team. I just wanted to get as many reps on the field as I could. And so what I did is I coached two teams at once, 2 different codes, trialed out all my drills, make sure they worked, make sure that I could handle different styles of play. And then I went into the Queensland Cup. That's where I was dealing with men. It's a difference. But coaching men and then coaching first graders who are angry and don't want to play for my team on the weekend, but they have to. So now I'm trying to manage them and try and get them up. And one of the hardest things for me, it was hard, it was challenging, was, within my second year of coaching, I was coaching guys I played with. I was coaching Jared Wallace, Sean O'Sullivan, some of those boys that had to come back to Redcliffe Dolphins, and I had played with them. I'd been in the locker with them, and it was challenging, And now I'm at the Broncos coaching these guys, and I played with a lot of them too. So those are things that you can only get through coming through the grades.
Yeah, that I imagine that would be quite quite a strange feeling, especially with a guy like Renner, who you want to comp with at a different club. Yeah.
Well, he tells me every day that I've changed, but like I said, it's the thing. Like I never thought I'd be in this position. Like if you, people that know me and played with me, I probably wasn't the character that ticked all the boxes. Right? I was, at misdemeanors. I could have been quite difficult at training. I was all about getting the boys together for a party. That was my style. So. Now I'm in the coaching ranks. I try not to be too far from my personality, but obviously you got to rein it in a little bit.
Well, we all change. We all can't carry on like we used to. The party does end. Yeah. Unfortunately, speaking of change, you were with Maguire in 14, and then a decade later.
Yeah.
And obviously you've not been with him that whole time. So a big chunk of time away from him. Has he changed much?
Yeah, he's changed. Obviously, when I got him in 14, but he come to South in 2012, 2013. Young, aggressive, straightforward, very challenging. Yeah, he'd go off pretty easily. I'd say he's a lot more measured now. obviously time and experience. But yeah, the blow-ups aren't the same. But yeah, like he's evolved, hasn't he? He's gone to different clubs. He's done rep footy. But his principles are the same. And it's been different, you know, being a player underneath him and then now working for him. But I get what's important to him, so that's why it works.
Just with him coming to Brisbane, obviously there was a big change. Had you already signed to be the assistant?
Yeah.
Under Kevy, and then he gets sacked. It just, what are you thinking while all this is unfolding?
Well, you know, when Kevy gave me the opportunity to come back, you know, Wayne's going to South Sydney, and Kevy gave me a call and said, I want you to come and be the defence coach. And I had plenty of meetings with him. I was excited. It's actually, you know, a few people know this, but myself, Trent Barrett and Kevy went out to dinner in Milton at a Chinese restaurant there, and sitting just on the table next to us was a whole bunch of journalists. It was actually quite strange, and we had dinner and we left. I dropped him home, and the next day he was gone, and he had been sacked. So I didn't know what was happening, and then I started to hear the rumours about Madge, but obviously I hadn't had you know, dealings or conversations with Madge, so I didn't know anything. So I'm probably just sitting there at that stage thinking, well, I'm not too sure whether I have a job or not, or I've just left my last club, so I'm not sure what's going to happen. And yeah, I just got a call eventually a couple of days later to say, don't worry, you're all good. And I just waited. I just got to work, started watching film, and then Madge came in one day and we got to work. So it was, it was strange. And, you know, obviously I still work with Kevy on the radio and that, and I feel for him because he was very excited about, you know, me coming in to work with him. So that was a crazy time, crazy few weeks.
Mate, I was going to ask you there about, I guess you could call it the anxiety or the pressure of the insecurity of the job.
Oh, yeah.
Like, is that a thrill for you? Or is it, how do you frame that?
Yeah, so I think coaching's, as you said, it's not a secure profession. And sometimes I think to myself, why did I go down this track? But it's just the way it all happened. I do get a kick out of the drama, to be honest.
Like not knowing. Like
not knowing.
Almost, yeah.
Or like, you know, when you're coaching a team, you're going to the game, you feel sick. You know, you're in the sheds before, they're going out to warm up, you feel ill. You just anxiety, thinking, how's this going to go? Half-time's tough. Losing a game's tough. All your support stuff, just dealing with everyone's expectations. But somehow I do enjoy it, you know, and I wonder what else I would do now. But then there's also times where you think, man, you put so much work into this, and you see all these coaches get a go, and then they get the sack and it's all over. Whereas if you were to put your time into something else, you might be able to build something that no one can take off you. But then again, like I said, you get addicted to the pressure of it, and it just can all change so quick, can't it? Yeah,
like, well, again, if you're aligned with a head coach, assistant coaches, like their contracts would be coming up November.
Yeah,
and not knowing where in the world they're going to be as well.
Yeah.
It's not. It just doesn't flow on. It could be. You're at Brisbane, and if your contract doesn't get renewed, it's like, well, we've got to move again.
Yeah.
Or start again.
Well, I think I've been pretty lucky. Like, in terms of when I come back, finished playing at Brisbane, I started coaching at the Dolphins, which is up the road. I've come back to Brisbane. I would say for myself, I'm not going to chase it around the world.
No.
I think for me, I love coaching. And I could easily coach a first 15 team around the corner, have a job, live my life. Yeah, I love coaching, but I'm not going to uproot my family 3, 4, 5 times from all around Australia and England and all that. I don't think that any job's worth that. So I think for my mind is I'll get an opportunity at some stage, give it a red hot crack. But apart from that, it's not something I'm just going to chase around, even for money or anything. but I do love just coaching.
I appreciate you saying this. I reckon if an offer comes, if the carrot gets dangled, it's going to turn your head.
Yeah.
I think that was something for me that I looked at, like stability and coaching doesn't provide that. You can get that dream of, I'll be a one club coach and coach for 20, 30 years at the one place, but there's not many Alex Fergusons, there's not many Craig Bellamy's around.
Yeah. And I think there'll be one stage where, if you get a head coaching role, where you got to go.
Yeah.
And you got to give it that opportunity. But I just mean, I've probably been around coaches and been around their kids who have had to move 3, 4, 5 times. And I just feel like I probably couldn't do that to mine. So there'd be probably one move in me, one big one. But after that would be it.
And what is the ultimate ambition? Because obviously you look at your playing career and it's clear you're an ambitious person.
Yeah.
To move as much as you did, to go and chase the dream like you did. That ambition flows through you from what you've done. Where do you envisage that getting to with your coaching career?
Oh, I think there'll be a stage where, a team looks at me and it might be the right fit, where I'd get an opportunity to coach in the NRL. I think that's one point. The other point would be whether I have a crack at rugby union as a coach. That's probably something else that's in the background. But I think for me, the NRL stands out as a competition head and shoulders above everything else. I think an opportunity to coach a team, that would really get me fired up.
So head coach, NRL is the goal.
Yeah. But, as we said, it's the way to get there, so many turns and so much patience, really.
Yeah.
Like you'd understand that people wait so long to get their opportunity and sometimes they don't have the right manager or they haven't put their name out enough. And I'm someone who doesn't have a manager now. I finished up my playing career and I don't have a manager. So my thing is more about word of mouth or people that I've worked with or players I've coached. That's probably how my name gets out there. I don't have an agent to push me in the media with journos and that. I just think the right time will come when it's the right person and club.
I was going to say with the role the media plays, and that's a game a lot of coaches sort of have to play. Is that something that you look at all? And even when you are coaching, like getting some of the media on side, because we know they're so influential.
Yeah. I think once you have the head coaching role, there's a game to play, isn't it? I think
it is a game, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that every coach plays it, and everyone has their journos that look after them and back them, and look, that's probably just part of the game. In my position right now, I don't need to play that game, but I've seen a lot of coaches have the guys to back them up when things get pretty sticky in a situation. And they always talk about journos. You just got to, they're crazy dogs. You just got to feed them and throw them a bone every now and again so they don't bite you in the ass. So you just got to feed them.
That's a great way of describing it. I'm just envisaging you and Danny Weidler just having secret phone calls like, mate, I need you to push me for this job.
Yeah. Imagine Danny Weidler pushing me for a job. I haven't seen him for a while, though, but I'm sure he would.
Have you patched things up at all, or
no? We haven't patched things up. But look, I know a few people that know him, and I don't think there's any hard feelings from him or me. It was a time where I was young, and he was chasing stories, and I was on the other end of it. And yeah, I mean, I think players that I've coached always come up to me and say, I was on TikTok last night and I seen this video of you and Danny Weidler and all that. So it's a little bit of a viral moment. But yeah, I got no problems with him. And I think since working in the media and, working with you guys, you get to understand that this is entertainment. This is all fun. This is just, I got friends that work as, accountants or lawyers, and they love this stuff. It dominates their day.
It does.
Yeah, and when you're on the receiving end of it, you feel the world's caving in on you and it's all, poor me. But when you get out of it and you sit in the room with them, it's all just a laugh.
Yeah.
It's all clicks. And then that's what I've realised about it.
Obviously, around that time, it wasn't long after that you left the NRL. Did you feel like you needed to get out of it?
Yeah. It was a time. It was time for me to go. I would say, leading up to that point, I'd probably had run-ins with media. Look, to be honest, through my younger career, I'd probably put myself close to the position of being sacked a couple of times for off-field things, and I just think it was time to get out of there and change it up. Look, I'd grown up playing rugby union as a kid in New Zealand, and I always had this thing where I used to say to myself, I went down the rugby league path, but if I hadn't, would I have made it in rugby union? And I needed to know. I just needed, I needed to know.
Go and answer that question.
I needed to go answer that. So there was two parts of it. One, I wanted to go play rugby, and two, I wanted to go to Europe. So I wanted to see the world, and I thought that was the right time. We were pushing hard at South at that time. I was there in 2013 and 14 with Madge, and it was full on. I'm sure a lot of people know the stories about the army camps and the training, and I was probably starting to lose a little bit of love for it. Not to mention some of the stuff with the media, and it was just time for me to get going. And yeah, it was a rude shock once I got to Europe.
Why was it a rude shock? Because it was Leinster.
I went to Michael Checker. I actually got in contact with him. He put me in touch with Leinster over in Dublin. I didn't even know that there was a team over there in Dublin that was such a great, legendary club. But pretty much what happened was, played you in the grand final, finished up, had a drink for 2 days in Sydney, jumped on a plane, flew over to Dublin, went to training for maybe a couple of sessions. I didn't have a clue what I was doing out there. I had no clue. We were doing scrimmage, and I just remember jogging up to one of the assistants and said, "Where do I stand?" And he just said, "Follow the ball." So I'm just running around following the ball. And about 12 days after a grand final, I'm playing in a small little town called Carmarthen in Wales for the Leinster B team with a bunch of academy kids. So I'd gone from 85,000 at ANZ to Carmarthen. There was a cycling track around the field. A couple of guys there were walking their dogs, muddy pitch, and it was torture. And I just, I didn't know what I was doing. I was getting cleaned up at the ruck, almost had a fight, and I just thought to myself, well, this is ground zero for me to learn rugby union. So it was a rude shock of, the new game and then the conditions.
You didn't get any time off. Your club didn't think.
No, I went straight
into it.
Yeah, because they had already started their season. So for me, it was about fast tracking. So it was get to training, get as many reps as you can, and then get with the B team and get over there and start playing. So it was it was full on.
That I didn't know that. I thought I just assumed you'd have had a big break. I know obviously Sam went and he needed a bit of time off there before he began, but far out, like straight into the thick of it.
Yeah.
In that time of year as well, where it's cold, wet.
Yeah.
That had you ever even been to like Ireland or Wales before?
No, never. So that's the first places that I went. But the more humbling part was, as I said, going down with with the academy kids, going to play at some field with no supporters. It was grassroots, and but it was good for me because that's where I started, and then where I ended up. I like to say that was a big part of it. I was like, humble myself. It's like I'm gone from what I feel was the pinnacle in one game to pretty low level now, and I've got to earn my way and learn and get to the top again.
It feels like you're attracted to that climb the mountain.
Yeah.
Again, conquer it, put your flag, right, I've done this, what's next? And obviously with the coaching element as well. Yeah,
well, I love, the opportunity to go unnoticed and learn. I think for me, I do enjoy that challenge, and it's not about proving anyone wrong or anything like that, but I like doing things the right way. Like I like coming through the grades, in a sense. I know
what you're saying.
Yeah, I like to earn my way through the grades. I feel that when you get there, it's more satisfying. And once you get there, you're ready. Like, you know yourself. Like, no one needs to tell you, but like, I'm ready for this. Me and Sam took different routes. He went straight into the limelight. He went to Bath. He was playing for England while I was still chipping away at almost provincial level, and just learning without anyone scrutinising too bad. And then I got my opportunity to play in some big games, and he ended up leaving, so unfortunately we didn't get to play together. But I enjoyed it.
What did you make of him in rugby union? Because it seemed like the rugby union press in the UK just couldn't wait for him to fail. And I think there was an element of there was people that were glad England went out of the World Cup.
I think there was probably just too much pressure around that time with him coming, with England rugby, hosting a World Cup. It was all too much for them, I thought, at that time. And, my view on him as just a pure player, he was playing obviously 12 and he was playing 6. Mate, he was awesome at 6. Like, he was awesome. I mean, I remember watching him play a game over there, and he was, people would know he was getting down and jackling, stealing the ball out the ruck. He didn't know what he was doing, really. Like, I don't think he even had, like, perfect technique, but he was just a madman, like, just getting in there and stealing the ball and putting his head where other people didn't want to. And I thought to myself, like, if he added on, like, time and technique and more to that, like, he could have been one of the best, sixes that had played that game over there. I thought he just needed more time, but obviously he had enough and wanted to come home. But, I thought he was awesome.
Yeah. I think if you look at that Wales game, when he gets subbed off, they lose. They were winning when he was on.
Yeah.
He gets subbed off, they lose, and he was the scapegoat. It's like, really?
Yeah.
Really? So, but I think they just wanted to blame Aligi.
Yeah.
It was a bit of a, not a clash of cultures, but maybe a clash of the classes, the upper class. And
there is a bit of that over there, isn't it?
There is. How did you find that when you got there?
No, I was all right with it. I probably felt it more in England than in Ireland. Like in Ireland, I thought everything was good. They accepted me pretty well. Probably when I got to England, that was probably where you had the whole league
for the national team, or
just in general. In general, I think you feel a bit of the leaguey sort of. They speak like that. Oh, he's a leaguey. It's a little bit different. And then I didn't realise this, until I got to England, but understanding the north and south,
class divide.
It's big, isn't it? And the two games. So, but some of those the guys from up north that came down and played rugby union, they were outstanding. Yeah, I played with some really good ones. So, guys like Chris Ashton and that.
I toured with him when I was 18.
He's awesome.
He's mad as a box of frogs when he's on. Yeah. It's interesting that big difference.
Yeah.
And almost, did you feel like you were treated like an outsider, or you had to earn something that maybe others didn't to feel part of it?
I think with it, I had to earn everything, but I do feel like there was never going to be a full acceptance, and I was all right with that. I was all right. And one thing for me, I look back on my career, whenever I played in that England jersey, I gave it my all. And I played different roles, from sometimes starting, sometimes off the bench, always ripped in. And I had a great time. I had a great time with all my teammates and the coaching staff. And it was a dream come true to play at Twickenham and listen to the songs and get some good wins there. But at times I always felt like it wasn't going to be full acceptance, but I was all right with that.
Was your first game over here on that the tour to Australia with Eddie Jones?
No. I came with him that time, but I didn't get to play.
Oh, you didn't get to play.
He just brought me along. He just brought me along as maybe a tour guide. I would just take the guys out to nightclubs and organise good coffees and stuff. So he just brought me along that tour where they had success and won 3-0. Then when we got back, it was the next autumn that I made my debut versus the Springboks at Twickenham. But yeah, I mean, that time probably spent with them in Australia was really important.
Can I ask? You said about the difference between like Ireland and England, but then you moved to France as well and Japan, and obviously rugby union's a global game. But is there a lot of differences in the different countries that you get to in terms of what that, to use your word before, about that, what that environment is like?
Yeah, I definitely feel, when you think about Ireland, you got a lot of that. Probably the style that they play. They're very skillful players. A lot of them have the Gaelic football background. So I really enjoyed my time there. They're very funny people. They love taking the piss out of you. I really enjoyed that environment. I thought it was one of the funnier environments that I've ever been in. Then when I went to England, it was probably a lot more serious. Obviously, a lot of guys from private school and well-educated guys. I learned a lot from them. And then when you go to France, that's just the wild, wild west. It was just so different to what I'd ever sort of been a part of in terms of, passionate fans, but probably just the lifestyle. You'd train in the morning, and then there'd be like a 4-hour break in the middle of the day where people would just go home and have lunch at home, and then you'd come back and do field in the afternoon. I remember going down to we went down to a cafe for a team lunch, and a bunch of the young sort of academy kids just rolled up on their motorbikes, jumped out, had lunch, ordered a double espresso, pulled out a cigarette, just having at lunch, at team lunch. The trainer would come to training, the weights trainer, and he'd just write the gym session on the whiteboard, and then just walk outside. Just we smoke. It was just different. The way they live life is just different. There was no people would say meetings at 9 o'clock, you're still sitting there at 9:20. Meeting hasn't kicked off, coach is out on the phone talking to someone, trainers having. It's just crazy stuff, but they don't stress about it. It's
funny that how culture plays a part, and we're saying about Wayne, don't be late, but their culture is very, very laid back. But when they play,
emotion, and then that's the thing that they rely on. The French, they love emotion, like the fire ups before the game, very close to your Tommy Raudonikis. It's that getting in each other's face and almost headbutting each other pre-game. And then to go to somewhere like Japan, where everyone was just so friendly, and their work ethic is just incredible, and their attention to detail. You'd go to training, and the protein would be mixed to perfection. The guy that mixed the protein, he'd come up with a perfect science about, and it was. And he'd have your gym towels ironed and folded, and everything was lined up. It was just immaculate. So it's just different cultures. You learn a lot.
But there's not, I guess, not necessarily one's better than the other,
No.
because they all seem to deliver results.
Yeah.
But that's fascinating.
Yeah. So you can take a lot from these different cultures, and I thought. But Ireland stood out to me as pretty impressive.
So just quickly on the emotion of the French, I'm assuming you couldn't speak much of the lingo, and they're firing up in French. What? I'm just trying to think before a game, come on, Benny, we need you, and they're just going,
mate. I would always just pull back from it, but the speeches was always, we had a French coach, so it was always a bit of a mixture. It went in and out of French and English, and lots and lots of swearing, and it was. And then when the boys would get fired up and they'd be hitting each other's chests and pumping and that, I'd just stay well clear of that, because that doesn't happen. That's not how we're wired in an NRL dressing room. It's pretty quiet. It's pretty focused. So I just didn't want to get involved in that stuff. So, but I definitely got involved in all the after-match function stuff. That I thought that was always good fun.
What?
The red wine and always. I think every game, we'd have after-match functions, and there'd be plenty of red wine and cigarettes being passed around, and it was just you had to get into it. That was the life.
We went as England under 16s. We played the French, and mate, we should have checked their passports because they were not the French under-16s rugby league team. There was some very much adult players playing for them. But in the function after the game, we're 16. Like, all the tables, red wine.
Yeah.
And we're like, what? And all their players are flopping red wine like it's going out of fashion. We're like, our coaching staff were absolutely not.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah. And then we'd do big trips, we'd do like 8-hour bus rides or 6-hour bus rides to and from games and stuff. And on the bus ride back, it'd just be bottles and bottles of red wine, and then straight out to the clubs after. It was just a lot different to that. The way we do it in the NRL with recovery and all that type of stuff. I can't remember doing a recovery session over in France, to be honest.
No. The red wine after a game, that makes me just feel sick. Yeah. A beer, brilliant. The pizza and beer, but red wine.
Yeah,
ugh. So. In terms of, with everything with rugby union, it really must have went up a level. You've had all those experiences, but going up a level to the Lions.
Yeah.
How immaculate is that?
Yeah.
In terms of, with the NRL, you go from club to club, and everyone stays in pretty good hotels. We travel when we fly. It's when economy.
Yeah.
And what's the level up when you go to the Lions? It's so much prestige over there. It happens once every 4 years. It's about to come here to Australia in a couple of months. But how elite is it for the rugby union side of things?
Well, I just remember trying to play my best footy, but I didn't have in my mind that I was going to play, or I didn't have it as like a goal. I was just playing good footy. Whatever happened. But I remember the day that, the announcement. Yeah, the announcement was done during the day, and I remember. So you can imagine every club football team in England just stopping around lunchtime, and they're all gathering around a TV to hear this live announcement. Now, I had no idea. So
you didn't know you were picked?
I didn't know I was picked. So I'm just sitting there amongst my team, but everyone's getting excited, and I'm sitting there, and then someone told me, "Oh, mate, I heard you might be," and it was a bit of I was pretty nervous because imagine if I hadn't. Like, we'd all gathered in the meeting room, and obviously I got my name called, so that was big. Took photos, did some media. But then, once you understand the gravity of it, is bringing all these players together like a big all-star team. And Warren Gatland does a great job of bringing a squad together. We learned different songs, which we had to do in like a choir setting. Different songs from, Ireland, Wales, Scotland. Obviously, we went out for dinner and had a ripper of a night out in Dublin. And it was just a good time. But probably the enormity of it is when you're... For me, I got lucky, right? It happens every 4 years, but to be able to go and play the All Blacks, like at the peak of the All Blacks in New Zealand, and you've just got this travel party of fans that they're everywhere you go, and they're on the same itinerary as you, but sometimes they're a day ahead. So you leave Auckland, you get to Hamilton, they're in Hamilton. All right, you leave Hamilton, you go to Wellington, they're there. They're in the lobby. They're just drinking piss in the lobby. Like, they're at the bar. And every time you come up or down through training to the team room, you just get a round of applause. They all stand up. And it just goes on and on for weeks and weeks. And, yeah, there's just so much buzz around it. So I probably, when you think about Origin's big, right? It's 3 games, it's big. But this is just bigger because they're with you on this journey, like this 8-week journey all around. And they've saved for so long. Some of them have saved, 8 years to bring their whole family out to do this. So for me to get that experience was pretty big, and to play the All Blacks.
What about like the actual treatment of the players, just how they get looked after?
Yeah,
well, can you tell us a little bit about just that level up of...
Well, I mean, I think, anyone that's played international rugby, you get the best of the best, especially over in England. But, coming to the Lions, I just remember, from getting suit fittings and different jackets and all the gear. There's boots. The sponsorship team is amazing there. You stay in the best hotels. You fly in the best planes. The best food. I think they had chefs and nutritionists with us. It was just... And everywhere we went, we'd just set up like a headquarters. You'd get to a hotel and they'd just take over a whole foyer. Like, I'm talking a huge sort of room, function room. They'd set up tables, computers, like almost offices
Yeah.
for the assistant coaches. And we were just a traveling unit that would just go anywhere and just take over. So, I mean, from that point of view, everything we needed, we got.
Yeah. I was at that game at Eden Park. The Dogs had played the night before and managed to jag a ticket. Not cheap, mind you. Jeez, they don't miss the Lions tours, but it was crazy. I'm there watching it and see you. I'm like, far out. Like I played against them. That's pretty weird. But for you, what was it like to face the Haka? Because obviously, like you said, you grew up in New Zealand. You're facing the Haka. It's like what emotions are pumping through the system there?
Yeah, interesting one. I think, if you're a kid born in New Zealand and you play rugby, or you just want to be an All Black. I think the black jersey always had a real strong pull to everyone. I grew up sort of watching and idolizing them. But then you understand when you're older that your life and career takes a different route. But for me to sort of stand there at Eden Park facing the All Blacks, obviously everyone would have loved to have been in the Haka doing it, playing for the All Blacks, but the next best thing is to play against them. And, that was a thrill because when I was a kid, I used to go to Eden Park. I actually had a job there. I think I was only 12 years old. The cameraman used to run down the sideline and I used to run behind him with the wires, with the cords to make sure that they don't get knotted up. And I was only 12 years old. I think you get $20 or something. But this was back in the day with the Auckland Blues. And so I remember being at that stadium as a kid and seeing like live, footy and action and just imagining one day, you get an opportunity to play professional. So to get there and play at that stadium against the ABs was awesome. Yeah.
I can't imagine what that would have been like. Obviously, I've faced the Haka in league, but that connection to the country and the Lions as well, like it. I know obviously state of origin is huge, but like that is like in terms of world rugby, once every 4 years, it's an incredible achievement to just be on that field.
Well, we're just very fortunate, I think, luck and timing. But I know there's a lot of great players that don't get an opportunity, and that's through things like obviously form and injury. So for me, just to hit that timing right, I suppose. You probably think back about things like, I made the decision to go, worked my way up through the grades, and to finish up there at the Lions, I think it was probably worth the ride.
Yeah, absolutely. That was, mate. You should be very proud of what you achieved in rugby, and like you say, just starting at the bottom, working your way up. Yeah, absolutely incredible. I want to just take you back quickly to rugby league and your achievement in 2014 with South Sydney. Do you think the fact that yourself and Sam were leaving helped you because you've got that bit of an end goal? Let's send these two out as winners.
Absolutely. I think I've talked about it before that it was a pretty full-on regime there under Madge. 2013 and 14, like I remember, it's a bit of a blur in terms of I just don't feel like we lost many games. It was just a machine that just kept ticking, and we always sat close to the top of the table. But it was exhausting. It was full on, and at times I wouldn't say it was always that fun. You ask someone now, you want to play footy and be in a team that's in the top 4. Yeah, I'd love it, but it's not always as fun as what you think, and at times it was very draining. And so I was probably getting to that point where I just felt like I couldn't do it anymore. And Sam had his own ambitions, which I think started around the time when the Lions came to Australia, and he had those thoughts. So once we had both made that decision, that was it. It was the last ride, and I never thought I'd come back to league. I was happy to go on and stay there in Union. So I think sometimes teams have those little bits of motivation about this is it. This is the last time we'll play together. Let's give it our all. And I think there were some real crunch games for us in those finals that I think those relationships really pushed through. And I think the wanting to do it for each other. The only other time I sort of felt that was in 2011, which was Darren Lockyer's last year. I was at the Broncos. I truly believe that we had the team that could have won a competition if we had a bit more luck, obviously with his injury. But that was another time where I felt like there was a real strong bond between the players to get it done for someone. And then once, obviously, 14 came around, it all clicked.
What was it like? Obviously, I'm in the Bulldogs bubble.
Yeah.
And for us, there was no bigger fan base.
Yeah.
And Belmore was going off.
Yeah.
What was it like down at Redfern in the sort of build-up to finals, and then when the finals was actually going on itself?
It's hard to. I mean, there was that build-up, but then I felt like the previous year in 2013, like I felt like that was the year that there was a lot of build-up and everyone had their high hopes, and we bombed out in the prelim against Manly.
It still hurts you all that, doesn't it?
Yeah, that really hurts. That one. I mean, that really. I mean, messed me up. I've met weeks after I was struggling with that loss. I actually went overseas to train and just get away. I was pretty lost after that because I'd given it my all for the year, and I just felt like maybe this is not going to happen. So 14, I felt like there was the buzz, but it was kind of like, are we going to choke again? Like we choked, we in that 13, we didn't get it done. And I think there was more about pressure building on us in 14 to get it done. But yeah, I mean, the scenes around Redfern and I think people turning up around grand final week and stuff, that was probably more of a distraction, to be honest. I never forget we had an open training session during the week, and it wasn't a great session. I just think everyone was so pumped. Everyone was throwing cutout balls and carrying on, and we were starting to lose our focus a little bit. But yeah, I was nervous going into that game versus you guys. I think when Mick got ruled out, that gave me a little bit of confidence that he wasn't going to play, because
you were missing Isaac Luke as well. He was suspended, wasn't he?
But I did feel like Uppy was
true,
not a bad replacement. No, and I know Appy hadn't played a lot of games, but he was phenomenal at training. Like if you talk about your second team and what he could do, I knew he was talented enough to hold up that position. But I knew that you guys losing Mick, that competitive nature of him, that would give us an advantage.
Yeah, it was pretty devastating. That it was heartbreaking actually. Yeah, it was heartbreaking. The push from 13, it's funny, I've spoke to a few players from South about that, and from 13, that loss to Manly, and it's funny, like unless you're living it, you just say, oh well, yes, like I'm watching that going, oh yeah, South lost to Manly, like, that's just the way footy goes, but it stays with people. There's many games that I've played and it's just a loss, but it stays with you.
I couldn't understand. I mean, I felt like we had a strong team to go all the way. I thought we had done everything right. We were winning the game. And then for me, it's a bit of a blur about how it unfolded. But it was a weird day. It was a weird day with, Madge is, mother passing away. And just, I don't know, even the way we broke up, like once that game, we lost the game. We just all went our own ways. I think some of us had a drink, some people took off, and the club just went radio silence, and it was a really poor way to end the year. I just remember thinking I don't know how we're ever going to get back there.
It's crazy that mentality of the footballer, and we live in the bubbles, and you actually think your world's coming to an end. Is the sun going to rise tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
With the way I'm feeling, probably not.
Yeah.
And everyone should be feeling like this as well. Just back to 14, the game itself. What are your recollections from the actual game? What do you recall from that?
I mean, obviously the biggest talking point is obviously, yourself and Sam having the collision at the start. But to be honest, I didn't realise that happened until sort of a little bit further into the game. I thought we were a bit rattled, to be honest, at the start of that game. I remember I slipped off a couple of tackles early in the game, And I remember saying to myself, "Oh no, don't have a stinker now." Like I just was really anxious about the result. And obviously, I think once the thing happened with Sam, and he came back on, I felt like that gave us a lot. To me personally, like when he come back on, I know he took a risk medically, but him coming back on, just being on the field, was something that inspired us to keep going. And what I remember about the game is, obviously I'm a back rower and Sam's the middle, but once that happened to him, we swapped for a fair part of the game, and I went into the middle and he went on to the edge, and then he came back in and wanted to. Once he started coming in wanting to take carries, I thought, oh, here we go.
Yeah.
He's got a broken face. Like, what's our excuse? It was a bit of that. It was a bit of that, like, this is maybe meant to be. But it was close, wasn't it?
It was.
Really, up until that sort of half-time period, it was a close game. But
what was it like at half-time for you guys? Because obviously the inspiration of Sam, what can you remember what was said?
I can't remember what was said. But I knew he wouldn't go off. I knew him enough. He's a bit of, the type of character he is. He wouldn't have gone off. He knew how important that game was. I remember the start of the game, you guys making us wait. That was
Did we?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
You guys. No, it was Hasler made us.
Oh, did he?
Actually, well, yeah, the 2-minute bell goes, and he'd already said to us, but I actually don't think it helped us. I think it helped you guys.
Yeah.
To get familiar with the.
The
I don't think it had a bearing on the game.
No.
For me, Souths were the best team that year. I think you deserved the win. I'm happy to admit that. We'd had a funny year. We started really well. Origin really affected us. Obviously, winning it for New South Wales, we sort of limped into finals and came hot at the end. But the delay was Hasler's way of just trying to play the games a little bit.
Yeah.
But like I say, I think it helped you.
Yeah.
You get familiar with just how big this was, because I was surprised when we went out. Obviously, I'm in Bulldogs mania. See more South fans. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
This is. It's on today.
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy. The scenes there were unbelievable.
Yeah, and we had played some good games around Easter as well, where we were getting big crowds, and there was that, you guys were going great, we were going good. But I do remember just having a wait out there and just thought, just soak up the atmosphere. I think we got together and did some quick hands and a little bit of a warm-up. So
you guys did get to ring the bell, though, which
with
Russell Crowe and all that. But, oh well, it happens. I've heard on quite good authority that post-game, you Clive Churchill, best on ground, and are these allegations true? And how exactly did you celebrate that history-making grand final win?
Yeah, I mean, after the game, we got together in the middle of the field and in a circle and had a beer and had a laugh, and then it was on the bus to South Leeds Club, and that's when we started ripping into the hard stuff, a bit of vodka and few rums, and it was on, and it was just a party. And I just remember walking out of South at daylight, going back to Sam's house, and he was in, I think he had gone to hospital, and then he turns back up and his face is out here, and he was trying to sip on a drink, and it just went. And then I got a call. Someone said that we got to go for the parade. So we got to go for the parade. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. We worked too hard for this, to enjoy this. I'm not going on the parade. I'm staying in this apartment and I'm drinking. So me and Luke Burgess end up staying in the apartment, kept drinking. Then we got a call that we had to come. So I think I arrived halfway through the parade. They had already been through a fair few streets, and the double-decker bus pulled up. And I remember I jumped on. I had a big 2-litre Coca-Cola, which was 3/4 rum, 1/4 Coke. And I went to jump on. I'm steaming, and Shane Richardson grabbed me and he ripped the Coke off me. And I ripped it off him, and then he ripped it off me again. And anyway, got on the bus. It was, blind.
Good couple of days.
Yeah.
And then with that ticket to Ireland as well.
Yeah, so a few days there, went to Ireland, had a good time there for the first day, and then, pretty much got into training. So it ended, it was short and sharp, but, you always talk about what would you do if you won a comp? Like, what would you do? And I had been living with Sam leading up to, I think we lived together for 3 months. I moved in with him leading up into the finals. And we used to talk about, what's the Mad Monday going to look like? That was probably our motivation more than anything. I used to say, what are we going to do the first night? What are we going to do on the second night? And we'd go for walks down to the local liquor store, and we'd just like go through different bottles, and we were collecting bottles. So we were buying different like gins and different rums and different vodkas, and just bringing them back. And so by the time it came round, the apartment was stocked up, ready to roll.
But I was going to ask you, when you said about you had like 2 days, what did you do with all your stuff?
All my
Like,
so
because I know what it's like to move across the world, and I left my mum and dad to clean up so much shit that I left behind. But
when I moved in with them, I'd already packed up my place.
I
packed up my place. I moved in with them pretty much with 2 suitcases. So, and I was ready to roll. But when I left, I just left a whole lot of stuff, grabbed my suitcase, and then I went.
Away you go.
Away I went. So I was ready to just move on. But it was a good few days there in Sydney. But I can't remember too much of it, to be honest.
Oh, good, mate. Yeah. It's the same old story, Mad Monday.
Yeah.
I don't actually miss them.
No.
Don't miss those full on, like straight through.
No.
Like, they're a thing of the past for me.
Yeah.
They're very much a thing of the past.
They are.
We'll get stuck into the 4 questions that we have for each and every guest. So a Dream Spine, a 1679. Hopefully Charlie has messaged you about these.
Yeah. I actually had to think about that on the way here. My one is Greg Inglis. For me, I've always been a fan of big fullbacks. So to me, he's the most talented player to play our game.
So, just on GI, people like say, oh, Cobbo's, like, he could be the next GI. So I don't know if you'll ever see someone like GI.
No.
I don't know if there's ever been a player that's, there's some great fullbacks, your Slaters, like you say, your Lockiers, and some great fullbacks in the game, but Greg Inglis was just on another level in terms of like what he brought physically to the backfield carry.
Yeah. Well, for me, like I'd say he's the best player to play our game in terms of as an athlete. When he was on the wing, he was the best winger.
Yeah.
When he went in the centre, he was the best centre. He won a comp at 6. He won a comp at 1. He could have played back row. Yeah, and he was just so big and strong. The amount of tries he'd save was incredible. And so for me, he could almost do everything. Pass, run. He could boot a ball a mile. So he had all the talent. So for me, that's why I think I've been around enough elite athletes to say he's the best footy player in any code. I don't think, and I agree with you, I just don't think we'll see anyone like him. And there's people that show glimpses. Latrell's very much like him and can dominate games like him. Cobbo's a big body and he's a great footy player too, but they're not Greg, So
he was just unplayable at times. You just couldn't stop him. When he was on, it was actually insane.
And in those years when he played fullback for us, obviously the amount of running that he had to do, there wasn't an ounce of fat on him. That he was in his best condition.
He was ripped to shreds.
And he trained every session. Never missed a session. Yeah, Madge made him train, so he was in his peak performance. So I'll go with him, number 1. Obviously 9, I'm going Cam Smith. He's pretty. His resume speaks for itself. 6, I like Benji. For me, I've always been a fan of how he played, and off the cuff, I got to see firsthand some of the things he used to do at training and on the field. And 7, I'll go with Andrew Johns.
Yeah, nice. All right, GI, Benji Marshall, Andrew Johns, Cam Smith, not a bad spine.
Yeah.
It's funny you actually played with Benji at Tigers again. Like looking up at everything you've done. Obviously, it's your life. You know all about this, but you forget.
Yeah.
like your career at the Broncos, career at the Tigers.
Well, I got to the funny thing for me was I went to Keebra Park High School where Benji had been previously on the Gold Coast. But I arrived, so when you go to Keebra, I went there because it was a good footy school. But once you go there and you sign a scholarship, you're pretty much signing with the Tigers, which means they have the first right to sign you. If they don't sign you, you can go to another club.
Yeah.
But if they offer you a contract, you have to take it. So once I signed the school scholarship, I was pretty much going to the Tigers to play Jersey Fleet. So I'm thinking to myself, I don't know much about the Tigers, and I think they're a pretty average team, but I'll go anywhere where I need to go. This is in 2005. So I'm at school, and in 2005, I'm thinking, I've got to go to the Tigers, but we'll see. And they go on this run, and I'm watching this run while I'm at school thinking, I'm going to that club. So they win the comp, obviously October. I get there in November. So I get to the West Tigers as a kid from school. They've just won the comp. And so you can imagine, everyone's value went up. The stardom went up. Benji's driving around in this little sports car and stuff. He picked me up from training. They're going out in the town in King's Cross. I'm tagging along. I'm just following him and Robbie and all that around. So for me, seeing that was at his peak, right? And I just got an opportunity to see that. But he was talented. Some of the things he would do at training were just ridiculous. Yeah. Just ridiculous.
Yeah. If the next question, if football didn't exist or you hadn't have made it, what do you think you would have ended up doing?
I think I just would have. I think it would have eventually come to the Gold Coast. Probably, I probably would have been a scaffolder, like everyone else.
Like everyone else. Yeah, fair play. The most interesting person that you've met on this journey so far?
Johnny Wilkinson. Yeah, something very intriguing about that guy. When I was in England camps, he used to come along to training sessions and take the kickers. But for me, he's just got so much knowledge and lived such an interesting life. A guy who was the peak of his powers, was the best rugby player in the world. But he obviously has a different way about thinking about life and lives his life a different way. And I just, I was always intrigued. And I'm so glad that I come across someone like him.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that answer. A sliding doors moment that has influenced your life, or you think about the alternative happening?
Well, yeah, just talking about how to make it in football. I mean, when I was in New Zealand, I was with the Academy of the Warriors, and I had an injury, and they were trying to save some money on their academy, so they cut pretty much 60% of it, and I was one of them that got cut at the age of 16, 17. And so for me, that was a tough moment, but then there was that opportunity of, okay, it's time to get on a plane and go to Australia. And at 17 years old, to move away from home, I think that was a pretty pivotal moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if I don't take that opportunity, I probably just don't chase it. The dream fades. But it was that energy of no, I'm going to go. I'll just go. I'll pack my bags and I'll go on my own. So that was a big move for me.
Yeah, that's huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
17 to...
Yeah. But that was the only option, right? I'm in New Zealand. There's only one team. Once they've kicked you out, you got no other option. Stay home and just give it away, or get on the plane and get out of your comfort zone and go for it. So, I mean, that's a pretty big moment for me.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Well, Benny, it's been great to sit here and chat with you. Like I say, mate, you were a phenomenal opponent. You really were. You were one of the best edge back rowers in the competition during that period, and going back and looking at what you achieved. And I love your mentality of that, climb the mountain, start at the very bottom, like you did with Rugby Union. You took a chance to come here, leaving New Zealand, and now on that path of coaching.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to watching you progress, mate, with the values that you've lived your life by in terms of what you've achieved in the sporting arena. I'm sure you're going to go far, and all the very best of luck with it all.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me, guys.
No, my pleasure. And if you need to lean on any media people, I'm not your man.